Iran attacked Israel on 10/7 through its proxy Hamas. They funded Hamas. I mean, Iran was funding Al-Qaeda. I mean, Iran has been funding a lot of deaths of Americans and people Americans love for a long, long time now. So Iran funded that attack against Israel and through Hamas. So Israel gets attacked, and Israel spent the next 2 years taking down everyone who attacked it, mob style, like everyone, the entire family, like the Godfather style, like him, his entire family, dead. And they did it. Both Hamas and then Hezbollah and then the Houthis, and then we helped with the Houthis and so on. And then the Assad regime falls. And then you have all these Iranian proxies that are now gone, or their heads have been chopped off. And at this point, there's some intel saying Iran is now accelerating its bomb because it's like a cornered animal and it's starting to panic. And I actually believe the reports that it was ramping up. And I said yesterday, Bibi is not really, he has no credibility for me. I mean, I've watched him every year say they're 6 weeks away. They're 6 months away. In 2012, I was on the air when he held up his little picture of the bomb that you'd see like in a Disney cartoon as like the round bomb with the little fuse at the top, trying to show us that they were about to have it within months. That's 2012. He is to the bomb claims what the leftist Greta Thunbergs are to the climate catastrophe claims. That's true. I'm sorry, but that's true with Netanyahu. His defenders will say, oh, but Israel intervened to slow it all down. I don't really believe that that's what stopped. I think he overstated time and time again how close they were. That's my belief.
Megyn,
anyway, my point, I'm just simply saying that, that it was more complicated than this because Israel had created conditions in fighting back that made this an ideal time to achieve the goal that all these other presidents agreed we needed to do. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, first off, I want to make sure that no matter how much you hate Benjamin Netanyahu, please don't compare anyone to Greta Thunberg, because that's just like a slap in the face. I mean, like, you want an ally? He's going to give a speech to the Knesset that Megyn Kelly in America compared me to Greta Thunberg. Yeah, a couple of things to slightly disagree with my co-host here, Matt. I mean, the thing about the North Korea comparison, and I get the idea that, there's different times for this when you say no one's done anything in the way that Matt Continetti wrote. But if there is a moment in which the South Koreans were in an active war with the North Koreans, and the North Koreans had lost all of its allies, couldn't do anything, was totally defanged. And at the same time, you could actually liberate the people of North Korea who have been living under the most oppressive regime on earth, the last kind of Stalinist dictatorship. It's a slightly different scenario, right? I mean, the fact that Brett McGurk is saying this and some other people, Mark Rutte, the Secretary General of NATO, who's sending Donald Trump a signal message, which Trump then posts on True Social this morning, which might be the most hilarious thing he's ever done. It was like this sycophantic message, like, we love you, President Trump. But the reason they're saying this is that this is a moment to do it. I mean, can you imagine this horrible regime that we've all been so afraid of, and rightfully so, too, can't even control its own skies, hasn't thrown up a single plane against not the B-2s, but any, American-made Israeli plane. It's the time in which you do something like this or consider something like this, especially if the intelligence is saying, as I tend to believe, I don't have all the evidence of this, I've talked to some people about it, Megyn, I'm sure you have too, that this was an actual serious point. But when you do this, you have a thing that so many people, Matt says, I'm a half peacenik. I think that's probably true. Matt's about a half peacenik. He sometimes loves war. But Matt the peacenik, the people who say blowback, this is something that you hear from the Noam Chomskys of the world. People used to be just on the left, but you hear it on the right too. This is also blowback. Blowback is bi-directional. They've been doing this for so long, intimidating, attacking. Look, you can think that America shouldn't have been involved in the war in Iraq. Unfortunately, and I criticize myself for this, took too long to get to that conclusion. But I did, and it was a bad thought that I had, but I was much younger. But regardless of whether or not we should have been there, we do understand that the Iranians killed 650 Americans. That's the kind of estimate through Iranian proxies that they were funding and arming, roadside bombs that were built by the IRGC people on the ground in Iraq. Soleimani also killed by Trump. Where? in Iraq. I mean, so they've been fighting a direct war against us. Should we have been there? No, we shouldn't have. But do we say, because we shouldn't have been there, kill American troops with abandon, hundreds of them? This is blowback. You guys got overstretched, and you left yourself open. And the Trump administration responded not by killing Iranians, not by killing Iranian scientists. The Israelis did that. Blowing up your nuclear program in various places. So
you effed around, and eventually you found out.
You found out.
To quote Colonel Jessup, you effed with the wrong Marine. You had Donald Trump in there. Joe Biden's gone, right? We didn't have some feckless loser leader with no spine. He tried. He loves peace. He went Ghazi era. And he looked at you folks in Iran and said, let's have a great relationship and stop all the killing. And then he started to realize, as any deal maker does at some point, when he's getting stiffed, when somebody's slow rolling you and doesn't really mean to be there in good faith. And then he dropped a bomb on their nuclear facilities. That's how it went down. I wanted to offer this. I didn't get to it yesterday. But a guy named Jamie Metzel posted this. You mentioned Brett McGurk as follows, quote, this is on X. I served on the National Security Council under President Clinton. I was Joe Biden's deputy staff director of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. I voted for Kamala Harris, and I've been a vocal critic of many dangerous and undemocratic actions taken by President Trump. But I'm not a blind tribalist, and am perfectly comfortable praising President Trump for bold and courageous actions in support of America's core national interests, as he took Saturday night. Iran has been at war with the United States for 46 years. Its regime has murdered thousands of American citizens. Its slogan, Death to America, was not window dressing, but core ideology. It was racing towards a nuke with every intention of using it to threaten America, our allies, or the Middle East region as a whole, blah, 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 blah. And then he goes on to say, although I believe electing Kamala would have been better for our democracy, society, and economy, as well as for helping the most vulnerable people in the U.S. and around the world, I also believe VP Harris would not have had the courage or fortitude to take such an essential step as the president took last night. Wow. I mean, it's remarkable. That's and a credit to him for saying it, Kmele.
And he might be right. And if I were trying to paint a alternative scenario here where the Trump maybe achieves the same ends without necessarily having to carry out the military strike, it would have involved him going to Congress very formally and loudly and dramatically and theatrically seeking authorization to use force and broadcasting to Iran very clearly, if we don't get a deal where we get to come in, thoroughly inspect these sites with our personnel, then a strike is coming. But get congressional approval, do things the right way, not quote unquote literally. I think that there's a possibility, at least, that you could have achieved a very similar outcome. In fact, what would have been better is that you wouldn't have had to have the expense of the bombing, but you'd also have the knowledge of exactly what was in that facility and who was in the facility, and be able to go in there and dismantle things in a very direct way. I mean, it's at least a possibility, but that is definitely different, and it's more complicated, and it requires a lot of strategery that they might not have been able to pull off. But at the same time, I do think that at least getting Congress involved in the decision is something that is worth flagging them for. But the outcome does seem quite good overall. And we'll just have
Congress
to see
doesn't help with anything, ever. Congress is the problem. Congress is not the solution to anything, and certainly not military action. Yes, if you're going to declare a war, you need them. But go read John Yu's piece over at National Review today. He's so smart. This guy's been so brilliant. Yes, he justified the torture under George W. Bush, but
little caveat
he was right
there.
about that too. I'm sorry. Anyway, no, I'm fine with it. I defended the torture when it was happening too. We thought we were going to get attacked every next week. We wanted to do anything necessary to protect ourselves and our children. It's like, fine to judge it now all these years later, but okay. Anyway, John Yu has got a great piece up today about the founding fathers and about Alexander Hamilton and about why they created the structure they did with an emboldened executive who could make split-second decisions, who could make in-the-moment decisions on how to protect the homeland, and how Congress, of course, is a much more deliberative body. And they understood that, and that's got its place, but it's not when it comes to warfare in the moment, like where actual decisions need to be made and they need to be made fast. That's why you have an executive who's commander-in-chief too. He did not need to go to Congress. You can argue about whether he should have. I still don't think he should have. Like, if you want to, whatever. Okay, but no, Congress fucks things up. They don't fix things. Sorry, go ahead.
Hamilton and Madison agreed on nothing. They didn't agree on what color the sky was, but they both agreed that the power to declare war should rest in the Congress, because they didn't want
to declare war.
Yes,
that's not what happened.
We're now in the Obama 2011, like, oh, well, it's just a kinetic military action. That's not a war. And I don't agree
you
with
really
that.
think we started a war with Iran?
I mean,
Is that what you think we did?
JD Vance said that we declared war on Iran's nuclear program, which is
not on the Iranian
still a
people,
war.
not on the country of Iran. It's different. It is not the same.
I think when
It's
you
not
drop
exactly
a bomb,
the same. It's
you're doing
narrower.
a war.
But,
So
yeah.
you're doing a warlike
I totally
thing.
disagree. I disagree with you.
And also, like, of course, there is the power invested in the president to respond to attacks. This isn't a response to an attack.
To prevent attacks.
This is a preventative attack. Yes, it is. But
That's okay.
That's not like, oh gosh, 24 hours,
okay.
not enough time to notify anybody.
It doesn't have to be
We gotta
imminent.
do this.
Constitutionally, it does not need to be imminent. No, it doesn't, Matt. What's your authority for that?
It's not my authority. It is for me. I think that when you say that you should, I think the dropping of a bomb is an engagement in a warlike activity, and if you're doing that, you should be doing that in defense and not.
So you're
in
talking about
preemption.
should, not must. I mean, I'm trying to defend the president's power to do what he did. There's no question, as these people talk about impeachment.
I think it's open to a legal challenge.
It's utter folly.
It's a legal challenge.
100% had the legal authority to do what he did.
That my side would lose, because successive Supreme Courts have given the president broad authority and the war-making power, to be clear. But I think to look honestly at the intention of the founders, including Alexander Hamilton, I don't think it was the president should have the ability to go out and wage preemptive war farther along. They understood that having a president with that much war-making power would be a temptation towards power and lead to more. And I think we've lived through this over the last 25 years.
What he did was try to prevent a war.
50 years.
He tried to prevent a war. That's what he did. He dropped a bomb on a nuclear facility that could have killed us all, with intel that they were ramping up and getting ready to use it. So, I mean, like, we can go round and round on this all day. But number one, the AOC calls for impeachment, which Trump and she are arguing back and forth on right now online, are absurd. There's zero grounds for impeachment. He's taunting her now, saying, go ahead and do it. Make my day. He's given her one of those. And I also think now, then we're spilling over into, okay, well, even if he had the power, should he have exercised it? And we definitely have a disagreement on that, but people can make up their own minds. I want to play you. I said I'd play the longer soundbite of him dropping the F-bomb, because he actually gets into a couple of other subjects, and I want to do that now. Here it is.
I'm not happy that Israel's going out now. There was one rocket that I guess was fired overboard. It was after the time limit, and it missed its target. And now Israel's going out. These guys got to calm down. Ridiculous. I didn't like plenty of things I saw yesterday. I didn't like the fact that Israel unloaded right after we made the deal. They didn't have to unload. And I didn't like the fact that the retaliation was very strong. But in all fairness, Israel unloaded a lot. And now I hear Israel just went out because they felt it was violated by one rocket that didn't land anywhere. That's not what we want, I'll tell you. And I'm telling you, I'm not happy about that, Israel, either. I think they both violated it. I'm not sure they did it intentionally. They couldn't rein people back. I don't like the fact that Israel went out this morning at all. And I'm going to see if I can stop it. Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too. Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel, so I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
Never gets old.
Al in the voice is always a good tell for him.
You're gonna miss him when he's gone. I know this.
I love the classic Trump overstatement that the response was the biggest response. I've never seen anything like it. It's like, well, it was just kind of a response. I'm not sure about that.
Can we just be clear on that, Moynihan? I just want to, because like my information, this is what I think happened via Fox News and the New York Times. The ceasefire was about to take hold. 5 waves of missiles came at Israel before it had kicked in. One got through the Israeli defenses and hit a target in an Israeli town.
Beersheba,
called Beersheba.
Yeah.
Then that's the one that killed 4 people at least and injured 26 Israelis. After that missile strike, Israeli fighter jets located the launchers that had launched those missiles over Iran and fired on them. Now, so far, the ceasefire hasn't kicked in, so no one's violated it, though not a classy move by Iran. Okay, later the ceasefire is 4 hours old, and the IDF says 2 Iranian missiles flew into the north of Israel, but that they were intercepted with no injuries. Iran is denying that they were the ones who launched those missiles. But Israeli intel is usually pretty good on who's firing the rockets at them. Okay, so I think when Trump says they dropped a bunch of bombs, I think he's talking, I don't know what he's talking about, to be honest, because what then happened was Israel was flying a bunch of planes, according to the Trump tweets, in retaliation. I think they were about to drop bombs, and Trump sent out a bunch of tweets saying, "You better not do that. I don't want to see that." From Air Force One, he said he spoke to Netanyahu, and he said he told Netanyahu, bring back those military aircraft that Trump indicated were on the verge of attacking Iran. He also declared that the last thing on Iran's mind now is a nuclear weapon. And then you had a Trump tweet at 7:28 a.m. today saying Israel is not going to attack Iran. All planes will turn around and head home while doing a friendly plane wave to Iran. Nobody will be hurt. The ceasefire is in effect. Thank you for your attention to this matter. We are days away from what has been dubbed by some the Rio Reset, what some worry could be a threat to the U.S. dollar's global dominance in over 80 years. On July 6th, BRICS nations, that's Russia, China, India, and Iran, and some more, are expected to unveil their plans to circumvent the U.S. dollar, thus cratering, its value. Some report that they've already been laying the groundwork as their central banks have been methodically divesting from the U.S. dollar and U.S. bonds in favor of gold. How can you protect your IRA or 401k from the fallout from this landmark shift? One option is to diversify with gold from Birch Gold Group. Historically, gold has been a safe haven in times of high uncertainty, which is right now. Get a free info kit on tax-sheltered gold IRAs by texting the word MK letters to 989898. July 6th could mark a monumental shift happening among nations that control 1/3 of the world's GDP. Arm yourself with information to diversify your retirement savings. Text MK to 989898 and claim your free info kit from Birch Gold. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.